away. Things like this, but I'm glad to see as many came out. And I welcome y'all, the city, and our mayor. Welcome y'all today. Yeah.
Good morning to each and every one of you. We are here in Arkansas Land and Community, ALCDC. We are here in person in the hybrid summit, one USDA, NRCS. We have a program today, FSA, and rural development. We're going to go on with the program, and after the opening and the welcome for Ms. Wade, and thank her, we're going to have Dr. King, Calvin R. King, Senior, our CEO of ALCDC, and he's going to present to you more about the programs that we offer and one USDA urban and rural programs.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's really great to be here in Lakeview. I was talking to some of you earlier, and it brings back a lot of memories. I used to come through this community a lot when I was younger, as a child growing up. My father pastored in Snow Lake, Arkansas for years, and he pastored in Oneida for over 40 years. And so I know a lot of the family, the Hamptons, Mr. C.B. White, who was the superintendent of school here for years, the Magic family, Jones, and all that's in the area. So it's really almost like being at home, coming back and being in an area that has been a part of my life over the years. One young lady that you remember me from when I was fortunately both of us have had a few years to actually come along, since then. But it's actually good to see you. Some of you represent, probably second generation or maybe even third generation. One of the other points that I made, it's really good to sort of know the history of both the community that you're part of, the community that's been a part of your life. And a few years ago, I was fortunate to have communication with Ms. Olson. I'm glad to see Ms. Olson. She's here out of the Elaine area. My mother was from Elaine originally. And so I have a lot of family in the Phillips County area. So I probably don't even know, now, but people the Hill, Aaron Hill right there. And of course, there's history behind that. And we'll talk about one lane Brian that took place as a part of that history. And a lot of other history and connection between both Elaine and Oneida. And those who were what I call the founding fathers of that area, the Coffee Creek area, down in that Elaine area from mother's family was originally from. And this is like, to me, in my own community and a community that was such a part of my life, in my growing up. I'm being here as Williams gave the reference to. We're going to talk about quite a few things, and we're going to try to do it in a timely manner as well. We have staff here with us. We have again Ms. Williams, who will be coming back to you. We have Mr. Jones, who is here, Michael Tucker, who is here also. IT person working with us. We have Home Service Agency here. We have rural development here. FSA, I know that Farm Service Agency. We have NRCS here, Am I right? Okay, and it rules about the. Well, we're gonna talk about the one USDA and all their programs, and anyone that's not here, we're filling the boards. You know, one thing is for sure, over the years, the time period, that I've been around and working with organizations, basically, all the organizations, Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Conservation Services, rural development as well, organizations have been fortunate enough to have an opportunity to work with all the agencies and become familiar with their programs and program services and opportunities, you know, that they offer. So we're going to talk about that. The other thing we're going to talk about air property. Now, air property, you know, you may not think about it that much, but when I think about Lakeview and some of the history of what I've seen on Lakeview, and Lakeview being, it's a historic community. What you know about Lakeview is a very historic community. I don't know if y'all have that as a welcome sign saying, or that I was able to pay attention to, welcome to the historic community of Lakeview, Arkansas, a part of the New Deal. The New Deal was, I see this young lady, she's by me, she knows the history, I can see that right now. It was part of the New Deal, that was a government initiative program that I think was on Roosevelt. If you buy it, I know I'm on the right track here. If you say, no, I know I got it wrong. Okay, so I still got it right so far. But it was a part of the New Deal, Lakeview part. And so it was established as Lakeview, and the New Deal as a part of history and government is where they gave away land to establish communities. And Lakeview is one of those 12 communities for African Americans that was established as a part of that legislation of that law from years ago under the Roosevelt administration. So that makes it very historic. I think there was only 12, and if I'm wrong, I think there was only 12 that was established in the US. This was after the Civil War. So that makes it very, very historic, and after slavery. Now, I gave reference to air property. When I said, given reference to air property, I was working with one young lady, and having looked at that original charter, her family was one of the original families when this community was established, the Phillips family. And I'm sure that from other some, but one of the original families said she was Phillips. I said, oh wow, okay, I recognize that name. That was one of the original founding families of Lakeview, Arkansas, when it was established as part of the New Deal, that whole history of the historic aspect of Lakeview. Now, what that means also that there is a possibility. Oh, okay, the Lakeview projects. Thank you, ma'am, very, very much. That means also that there's a possibility. That if you're talking about the second, third, or fourth generation of individuals, there may be some air property that exists here. Now, if y'all know of air property exists here, then air property is simply land or assets that were left by your forefather or your parents. And there's now that you have inherited. So you have inherited as the heirs of that property. And in certain cases, that air property, there is undivided interest. There may not have been a will left. And if there was no will left, then it is possible that that estate was not probated through the courts. So you still have that historic family site with undivided interest, and you may not have established what you call an administrator for that estate. So we're going to talk some about that, and we also have some educational information, a publication that we did some years ago that's on air property, and it also talks about what is the new law in Arkansas now, and it had to do with the Unified Air Property Act. We worked on it for 20 years and finally got passed. And a major benefit for those if you happen to be part of an air property estate. They'll talk some about air property as relates to the Farm Service Agency also. And we can have some discussion about that. But more than anything, what we want this to be, we want this to be a serious discussion about the various topics that we will talk about the agencies and the resources they have to offer, everything from farm financing, urban farms, business loans, business grant programs, housing loans, low income or affordable housing loans, grants for housing, grants for community service facilities. We'll talk about that as well. Now, the way we're going to talk about it, as people talk about their programs, we're going to have this what we call a round table, or we're going to have this discussion in this room. You're going to ask questions. I'm hoping you will ask questions to make sure we give you the information that can be beneficial for you based on the resources that the agencies have to offer. That's one. Now, the other part of this process and what we're going to talk about, some of you may have heard of legislation and what is called 22006 and 22007. Now, 22006 was a part of legislation that was passed under the not farm bill, but under what was called it was called the Black Farmers for Justice Act. Black Farmers for Justice Act. As it first came out, 22006 and then 22007. And of course, some of you may have heard about a lot of other programs, the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act, as it was so amended in the Black Farmers for Justice Act, so amended, so 2006 and 2007, it was so amended where it did not do the same thing as it was initially supposed to do, which is to take off all debts that African Americans had on their farm, our USDA loan was to be totally written off, 100%. That was on 22006. And then under, but that was, and it was modified, but it continued. And where under that particular piece of legislation, they did debt adjustments. They paid all those loans current. So if you had a loan that was 100% due, then that means that 100% of that loan was taken off under 006. I mean, they all that was written off, and you should have gotten information in the mail and letters regarding what the adjustments were on those debts. Okay, so that's sort of the way that it has been going and how it has been implemented at this point. And then the other one is 22007. Now, this is all by way of USDA Farm Service Agency. USDA Farm Service Agency, and there are two sides of that. They have both the program side of Farm Service Agency, and then they have the loan side of Farm Service Agency. The area that I'm talking about now is more related to the loan side of Farm Service Agency. The loan side, meaning those debts was taken off or they were adjusted on a 06, 07. We'll talk about that, and again, it was a part of the legislation that was passed that allows you to make application. It allows you to make application, and it's been administered by an independent agency that has been hired or employed by USDA, but you can make application for financial assistance for financial assistance on, as it relates to discrimination practices. So if you were discriminated against, and there are those specific areas and how people determine that or what the application process is. And there's some other tools out there also, and most of the stuff is online that allows you to understand what discrimination may be. You've been able to identify whether or not you had such an experience. So again, a lot of tools are there, and people who had the experiences over the years. So again, that's also what we call access to resources. Access to resources, financial support. So one USDA, and this is still linked to one USDA, because these resources are as a result of the legislation and linked to USDA and not implemented by, but by way of third party, the resources are being made available by USDA, Secretary of Agriculture Bill Sack, and the agencies that's a part of USDA, which is Farm Service Agency. So all of this is about resources, how to access those resources. And people, I'm gonna tell you, one of the most important resources to have, one of the most important resources to have is information. How many of you agree with that? It's information. Because see, if you don't have this information and understanding what is available and how to access it, then how do those resources become beneficial to you? Because you don't know. I mean, you didn't know, or you heard about it, but you really don't know about it. I heard that you can get a house through rural development, and it's for affordable housing. If you can really get a house and get a loan, but then where do you go to get an application or get more information? Who knows where the USDA Service Center is? Raise your hand. I'm asking the question. I know that anyway. I hope that. Who all know where the USDA? Well, who all know where the USDA Service Center is for Phillips County? Okay, let me just try this one more time. One more time. I ready yet? Phillips County. Okay, we're gonna try this one more time about the USDA Service Center. Now, the USDA Service Center has NRPS, it has Farm Service Agency, it's NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services, it has Farm Service Agency, and it has USDA Rural Development. So now USDA Rural Development alone does not make up the USDA Service Center. Okay, all of those agencies make up the USDA Service Center. So that's Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Conservation Services, and USDA Rural Development. Now in Phillips County, it just happened that USDA Rural Development is not located because it's more of a multi-county resource that's how it operates. So USDA Rural Development is located in the St. Francis County USDA Service Center. We got that. That's only one. That's just that component. So USDA Rural Development is located in St. Francis County in Orange City, at the USDA Service Center. But now let me tell you something kind of tricky about that. This happened in the first part of the 80s when they restructured USDA Farm Home Administration. Well, how do you remember Farm Home Administration? Great. There you go. Okay. Look at it. Okay, now. If you go to Port City. And you wanted to talk to somebody about a farm service agency. Get a loan. Guess what? You can get. Farm service. Loan service. From USDA Farm Service Center in Port City. You have to go where? Well, if you're in Phillips County, you go to Helen. If you're in St. Francis County, then you have to go to. No, you have to go to Wynn. You have to go to Wynn. You have to go to Wynn. You just have to go to Wynn. Over to Cross County. To make a loan application with Farm Service Agency, but you can get program services. From Farm Service Agency out of Port City, all right? Out of Port City. So see, I was gonna say, information wise, sometimes you have to understand, these are all the resources, and this is how you get this part and where you get it from, based on what you may be looking for within the context of USDA, but it's still one USDA. So that's why information people, information is important, and to understand, where the resources are, what type of resources they have to offer, then how to access those resources. But that's what what we're gonna be talking about. The other we're gonna talk about is farm certification and urban farm. How many acres do you think you have to have a farm nowadays? How many acres do you think you have to have? How much land do you think you have to have a farm nowadays? Anybody who think they know the answer, raise your hand. Okay, 10 acres. You said 10 acres. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Psalm said 1 acre. They have to have at least 1 acre. Psalm said at least 7 acres. Another one said 10 acres. You have to have at least that much land. All of you are wrong. Now you have to have some land. Say you don't have to have any land, all you gotta have some land to have a farm, trust me. But you can have a vacant lot. You can have a vacant lot. It could be a half acre. It could be a fourth of an acre. But if you have title and ownership or control of that land, then you can go get you a farm number and establish it as a farm. Then it becomes a farm. So if you got some gardeners out there, so well, no, I got a good garden over there. I got about a half acre garden over there. Well, you could have that garden established as a farm and get a farm number. And you would have access to all the resources that USDA has to offer, both with NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services, farm loan program, you have access to that. You have access to sign up for NAP, which is the insurance we call mitigating risk itself, a risk management program through farm certification. You sign up for that based on your crops, you can get that. So you don't have to have no 10 acres, no 5 acres, no 100 acres. You can establish what we are calling micro-urban farms now. By getting a farm number and dealing with the resource that's available for that. We're gonna talk some and we want to say, well, we raise all these vegetables, what we can do with them. Have also what we call new market opportunities, okay? New market opportunities. I don't know if you realize or if you've heard people talk about the fact, if you're raising a lot of vegetables, so well, I raise all these vegetables, I just give them away. I just give them away, I don't have no market, can't sell them. Have y'all ever heard that? Folks say that, you got a big garden and all I can eat, but I can't, the rest of it either drive in the field or all that. Well, you all have local market opportunities right here in Phillips County. Right here in Phillips County, for those who are gardeners or raising vegetables on a small scale basis. Because the Department of Human Services started some time ago a program on market opportunities for people who are raising vegetables, and there's a process you go through an application and filing for that. Where you can take your vegetables to the food pantry. How many of you know what a food pantry is? Know what a food pantry is? You can take those vegetables to the food pantry and sell them. So you can give your vegetables away and get paid for it. And that's pretty good, isn't it? So you take them to the food pantry, you get your application done and get everything done and certification problem, and we work with individuals on that. We're gonna have a meeting in January with what we call growers, and those who plan to be growers or want to be growers. That'll be in January in Fargo, and people who are signing up for it, or who want to do that. That will allow you to deal with the application process, or if you are raised on, you know someone else, and try to get people set up, or more people to set up, to sell their vegetables to the food pantry. It's an opportunity where people can do what they call the food deserts that exists, and this has been around for, a few years now. From new market opportunities, we call it what we call food hubs, food market hubs. And you'll have a fantastic food pantry up in area where the Elder family live. Don't nobody else have food pantry like that. I wanted to call those folks to make the USDA. I'm joking, man. I just joke with people. It was the community that Lake Range, Southern area, but a very, very nice food pantry in that area. So we're gonna talk about all those things, questions you may have about that, as the resource people come forward. And we wanna really have a serious discussion. One other thing I wanna mention, on the application for financial assistance for discrimination, we have what's called intake form. Intake form. If you don't know anything about the application, and if you want to get an application, we want you to make out the intake form and turn it in, one. And then two, we will deal with the process through our portion. We have 2 office locations, one in Monroe County, over in the Brinkley area, place called Fargo. We have a history too, like Lakeview. In Fargo, our office operation there, and we have a office operation in Ford City now, our field office operations, where Ms. Williams is located, and Mr. Lawson is located. So either one of those areas, and they'll give you information on the phone number of how to get in contact with it. So if you're interested in what they call 22007, assistance, financial assistance for discrimination, you definitely have to make out the intake form so we can work with you from there and provide you additional information, both on training guides. I've been working with another organization. We have now called training guides for completing the application one, as well as making sure you know where the main office location is, which is in Little Rock, is where the office is on the 17th floor of the region building. This lady shaking her head, but I said, look, we didn't put it in Little Rock on the 17th floor. We had nothing to do with that. There's a national administrative agency that I want to make sure very clear, because we just a bad name sometimes. I heard some things said about us, no, we are not administering the program. Make sure very clear, make sure very clear. We are not administering the financial assistance for discrimination program. We simply serve as an organization that has worked over 43 years to assist people with getting access to the information that will empower them and allow them to access the resources that may be beneficial for them, be it with USDA or the private sector. And there's some things we can talk about on that from Federal Home Loan Bank, and how you get a grant through Federal Home Loan Bank, through your local bank. will give you $100,000, but you need $225,000 in order for you to start your business or expand your business in the same way. Then they have what they call equity loans through the home loan bank that you have to access through your local bank that will provide up to $125,000 in financing unsecured. In other words, you don't have to have the necessary security for it, but it will allow then the bank to make that loan to you for $225,000. How do you do that? See, that's what you look for. So it's not just USDA, and I can go on and on about a number of other programs, from those financing grant programs on the private sector side as well as the public sector side. Now, it just so happens that, and we're very fortunate, that USDA has been the most accessible resource to African Americans, as I remember in growing up. And that's been 70 years, okay? So that's why we're here to talk about, we say, one USDA, how to access the resources, benefits, what's available to you. I'm gonna stop right now. All my staff told me that please do not give Gavin King the microphone. So, and come on, say, I'm so glad he wasn't a preacher. We would never get out of we would never teach that. We would never get out of church. And we had a longer service than we did ever. That was it. But now, you know, I'm not even saying it. I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Williams now, people. We're gonna go to bed. Thank you very much.
Say amen. But that was a lot of information, but important information and good information. So we're gonna move on. We do have a lot information to present to you. We're gonna have natural resource and conservation services to come up. And we're gonna give you information on equip, CSP and conservation easement. And I would say yes. You can have my seat back. No, I wasn't here.
Well, pleasant morning. I know that you can hear me. Can you hear me? No. Okay. Yes. Can you hear me now?
It doesn't amplify, that's just for the computer.
Oh, man, okay, all right, I will try to speak up. So my name is Chriselle Benjamin, and I am the district conservationist for the lovely office of NRCS right here in Phillips County. And we as NRCS, we're just a small offspring of the USDA. We provide applied technical assistance to farmers, ranchers, producers, and anything in between. We do this through getting your objectives of what you would like to do. We would go with the objectives, put it on a conservation plan, and we will execute this conservation plan through a set of conservation practices. And this conservation plan could be funded or it could be unfunded. Usually in our areas, it is funded, and it is funded through some of the programs they mentioned, one being equip. This is our environmental quality incentives program. And this is for people getting their foot in the door, all right? If you are just trying to understand what conservation is and what you are trying to do and how you would like to achieve it, baby steps, this is the program for you. Our second program on our CSP is CSP. It is the Conservation Stewardship Program. Our CSP local lead is actually right here, Ms. Kamara Laka, who is also acting as district conservationist in another area. So we're good. But now this program is for individuals who are, hey, I'm doing conservation activities on my land. So we are rewarding you for doing those conservation activities. And In addition, we're giving you that little 2 cents for you to enhance those conservation activities. Now, what is conservation? The conservation practices that we are talking about looks different from operation, because everyone has different styles, different ways that they're going to accomplish. You have different land uses, and all of that plays a part in it. These conservation practices address particular resource concerns. Now, what are our resources? Fuel are resources, minerals are resources, but within RCS, we are more so specified and focused on your plants, your animals, that being with your livestock for production and wildlife. Your plants also being for the crop commodity for what you eat, also for feed for livestock and for your forestry. And water, well, this is just some of the resources people define, but water. And water being the quantity and the quality. We want to make sure that you don't have that much runoff going inside our local streams and causing algae blooms and changing the ecosystem. We also want to make sure that we do have water in our local aquifers, because we are in a decline state, right? All right, so some of my staff is here, I'm so excited. We will look to answer any questions that you will have. Now, I just, as it relates to the Inflation Reduction Act, I believe that it was $20 billion was set aside for NRCS to spend over the next 5 years. This year, 850 million was released for us to spend for the FY23 year. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, we had 2 separate programs for CSP and EQUIP. We were more so focusing on the climate smart and sequestering the carbon within our area. And we did that through our soil health suite. If you would like to know more, I can tell you more. I'll just keep it basic, overall for now. Next year, we're not sure what that looks like. It's going to be way more opportunity and way more funding that's going to get released. So please come, talk to us. We are here. Now, how do we fit in this whole state? Well, after you go to FSA and get your eligibility together, you would come and talk to us. And more than likely, you probably want that financial assistance to go ahead and enact some of these conservation practices, because everyone in here wants to do their due diligence and help the world, right? So that's when you come to us, fill out an application, sign up, you go through the whole process with us and execute these programs. All right? What you got?
Well, people, I'm gonna say this, I think it's important, that you know and understand from an RCS and a representative is that you go to FSA and the due diligence process to deal with what your eligibility is. Now, what are some of the eligibility requirements when you're going to FSA? You have to go to FSA and deal with what eligibility is. So now what is that all about?
FSA.
FSA, he's coming,
Okay,
that would be just elderly.
okay,
Talk about FSA and the elderly requirements.
okay, but so you should have mentioned eligibility.
But 3.
But I could go there first.
Yeah, you can go there. The 3 basic requirements that we are looking for in our system to make sure that, hey, you go to this payment on our side and receivement of financial assistance is make sure that you have an HEL determination, highly erodible land determination, and that is a 1026 request that you're going to turn in. You're also going to make sure that you have your AGI up to date, and they're going to include these things for you guys, okay? And the last thing is make sure that you have an established farm and tract number. With that, I am done. Thank you.
So is there anyone else speaking?
Yes,
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay.
You have another NRCS?
yes, we have some NRCS representatives here.
Just speak.
Yeah, we have always
Speaking on both houses,
right a lot of. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I am Tamara Lockhart. I am actually a soil con in Phillips County, but I am doing a detail as the DC in Monroe while Miss Applewhite is out. As of right now, I'd say if anyone is interested in our NRCS programs, this is the time to sign up. Like we said before, FSA is going to be your first stop. At FSA, you have to get your eligibility together. That includes getting your deed, getting your farm plan done, making sure you fill out all of your eligibility sheets. Again, we work in tandem. So we work together to get you the service that you deserve. So as producers, it doesn't matter if you have 20,000 acres or your little backyard space behind your house. We are here to serve you, and if they say anything different, it's wrong. Just so you know, it's wrong. It's true, it's wrong. So the thing is, we know if you have 2 square feet, or if you have 20,000 acres, I just have to repeat that. We do offer assistance through, like Ms. Benjamin said, through practices, which are combined into a plan. As you follow your plan, depending on the program, you can get paid as you go. And considering that most people in here are historically underserved, because we do have priority pools for our veterans, our beginning farmers, our socially disadvantaged, and our beginning farmers. You do get priority. You do get priority. So the thing is with these programs, especially with EQIP and our RCPP program, well, just EQIP actually, you do get an advance payment. An advance payment is a payment where we release half the money to you before you even start the practice to help ease some of the costs. That way it won't hurt your pocket as much. So the thing is that we do have a lot of protections in place for our historically underserved producers. If you are interested, we help do cost share, and cost share is more like a coupon, if anything. If you want to live, as long as you grow vegetables, we can help with that. High tunnels, raised beds, low tunnels, and that's only for our urban. If you do have some acreage, if you want to get drip tape, poly pipe, anything, almost anything that you can think of, we do help support you. But the thing is, you have to know how to run the programs, which is why you have to have a good relationship with your office.
Sure.
You have to come in and talk to your office that way, because I know in Phillips County, folks go the extra mile, truly. Y'all don't know the lady I sit in Phillips County. Same with Ms. Tracell, with Darian, with Ms. Sarita, with Ms. Tasha, Theo. We do really go the extra mile, and I have brought that spirit into Clarendon as well. So
Yeah, we have one more person, Mr. Charlie Hunter. Now, he is a part of the area staff, and he works with one of our partnership programs called RCPP. He has been doing a great job with this, so we would like him to say something about this. All right.
Okay, everybody, my name is Charlie Hunter. I'm the area program specialist over the RCPP program. Originally from Martin, Arkansas. With this RCPP program, it's a multiple county project, and we're looking at 40 acres or less. So if you have 40 acres or less, you will be a first priority funded application. So we're looking to do wells on land that you don't have wells, you don't have to have an irrigation history. We can level the farm, ditches, we just open it up to all practice that we have in our practice catalog. So if you're historically underserved and you have 40 acres or less, you need to be signed up for this RCPP project. As Tamara mentioned, about the advanced payment, they're working on getting that in the RCPP, but the only program now that you can get advanced payment on is the EQIP program. So with that being said, you can either contact me directly. I'm located out of the Helen Field office, but I'm actually responsible for multiple counties in the northeast area of Arkansas. So we're looking, we have 2.8 million available each year for funding. So please sign up. If you have land, we looking at high tones, we looking at, you know, cover crops. I know a lot of us down here, we like green, so that's considered a cover crop. We have nutrient match, we can help you with your soil fertility, get payment for all these different practices if you are producing and actually working your land. Also, as a landowner, you can look at the structural side of things. That may be an agreement that you may want to come up with your farmer, but we help with all those different practices, and this will also increase the value and help your land be more sustainable for your kids, your grandkids, and heirs of that property. But like I said, I didn't have to bring any cards with me today, but I'm welcome to give my number to you, my email. You can contact me after the meeting. And then Dr. King, they have my information as well. So once again, my name is Charlie Hunter, and I'm the area program specialist with the RCPP program.
What's that number?
501-251-3684.
All right, so lastly, we have one more person from our office that I would definitely like to make sure they say what it is they gotta say. There are our soil conservation technician, and he really provides a unique perspective because number one, he is a farmer. Number two, he is local to the area, and number three, he can put that accountability into, hey, what we offer may not really make sense, but if we apply it this way, it may make sense to the operation and the area. His name is Mr. Fiachi Griffin, and I hope while he come up here and speak, he can talk a little bit about the high tunnels and how it all makes sense. All right.
How's everyone this morning?
How you doing?
Like Ms. Benjamin said, my name is Theatre Griffin. I'm soil conservation technician in Phillips County. And I'm gonna explain the way the hot tunnel works for NRCS program. First of all, you have to establish your record with FSA. Then come over to NRCS to do a field visit to see if the ground viable to hold a hot tunnel. With the hot tunnel program, you have to plant in the ground. You can't set it up on concrete or anything. So you have to plant in the ground. Then the next thing is we'll see about what size we want. We go off of square footage. The minimum is 10 feet wide and about 20 foot long to a maximum of 30 foot wide, 96 feet long, which is 2,808 square foot. It has to be 13 gauge steel and 6 mil plastic. And then after that, once you get approved for the program and cost it, you'll find the hot tunnel, you will put together according to specs and standards. And then we'll come out, I'll come out, and I'll check it out, and then you'll receive your payment. And of course, Ms. Lockhart spoke about the advanced payments earlier. You can receive advanced payment on it if you meet the criteria, but it only gives you half of it to get you started. And it has to be completed within 90 days of receiving it. Then other than that, after that, you receive your payment. And you start growing your vegetables in the hot tunnel. The purpose of the hot tunnel is to extend your growing season outside of the normal areas you would have and protect them from pesticides. So, do we have any questions about hot tunnel?
Anybody got anyone to sign up? Potentially? Okay. Y'all right again with a high tone.
Wait, come on,
Well, it's always been good with the greenhouse. But the high tone was, it goes basically known as a hoop house as well. There are metal rungs that are placed in the ground, 6 to 4 feet apart for, snow load purposes. We use 4 feet here. So you'll have a metal rung, and then you'll have this thick plastic that goes over it. Then it'll look like a little small barn with clear plastic over it. And you plant the crops inside of that, and it keeps it warm. I was in one this past winter, and it was around 32 degrees. And I had to take my jacket off inside of the house, because it was sweating inside, it was so hot.
Now, is that what they used to call in the old days, the hot house? What they used to call it, the daddy's. Yeah, we had, growing up, I remember daddy had one, it was covered with plastic.
Kind of like egg food.
Yeah. I remember back in the old days, all them looked like igloos. It's covered with plastic, and my plant in it, season, start.
In the house, you got
It might be what it looked like today. Yeah, I've seen that. But I was trying to see if it's the same thing that when we grew up, daddy had one. Don't y'all know that? Yeah, I had them.
There's certain rooms you have to adhere to inside the house. You can build tables in there, like you said, seedlings. Like that would be more so like the greenhouse, that we don't do greenhouses. We do the house, you have to plant in the ground, or you can use raised beds inside the house. Other than that, you can put fans inside. You can use heaters to inside to help you continue your growing season. That way you'll be ahead of anybody else that's growing produce. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain how it protects from pesticides? I always thought of it just as warm, but how is it stopped, like
Because,
spray?
you have that buffer to keep it out, keep the pesticides out. So. Any more questions?
Somewhere.
So,
Yes, sir.
like you said, we have to start with you first and then you go down the line. How do you?
FSA funds, FSA.
FSA first.
Yes, sir. And if you come to us, if you come to our office, we'll take you down to FSA. No issue. We'll get you going in the right direction.
What about, this thing right here, the hot tub, do they have, can you put like an irrigation in there?
Yes, ma'am. We also have, what do you call, micro irrigation. We have, micro irrigation kits. There's this company, well, you can buy them from anywhere, but this company out of Louisiana and, Ruston and Baton Rouge, they have the kits you can buy specifically to the square footage of your hot tub and to fit your operation perfectly.
So that's what I'm asking. Did I put that in my operation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That'll be part of, our field visit. We'll discuss what your resource concerns are. And we'll come up with a plan for you, and that plan would have like the cover crops, micro irrigation, pest management, nutrient management, all those things.
And did you guys offer advice and you come out there and see the problem, you don't offer any kind of advice on, like, if I want to plant one thing to say, I think it'd be better if you offer that kind of advice? No? Or just what I want to do?
That's kind of a yes and no question. Depends on what it is, we would, but we also defer to our partner, the extension office, Mr. Sean Payne up at the University of Phillips County University of Arkansas, the PCCU of that's a valuable tool that's available to you guys. That's free. Y'all can go up there anytime you want. They have the pesticide books, insecticide books. They also let you know what's the sample for your land. That's where you get your soil, your free soil samples from. They give you the boxes, you go out and pull your samples and send them off, they give them back free of charge. That's a resource that's highly underused in the area. Yes, ma'am.
What's the name of, what was the name of that operation, that person you said we can go to for that last information?
The extension service, his name is Sean Payne.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask a question, we're talking about conservation, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When, I'm not really getting a good understanding of it, but if you drive from here to home, look at the ditches, the highways, and the way the slums and here breaks down,
Yes, ma'am.
and terrible, look like the conservation is out of hand. I mean, as far as I'm taking care of things, the farmer, the throwing dirt, or whoever's plowing is throwing the seed down the highway all right. The ditches are filled, things are growing up in the ditches, you know what that's doing to the erosion. In the fields, when I'm driving on, I can see water running the wrong way. I'm saying using my term. But instead of the water going so that it's draining where it's supposed to, going across, running over the highway, filling up the ditches. And then if you go a little further, you'll see where someone, I guess, got permission to dig up and make a highway, a road almost, going on through the undergrowth and blocking. It looks like eventually we're gonna do something to the lake out here.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot of things being done wrong. If you drive now and look over, you see some weird plants growing on just across the lake that hasn't been there all the time. People that live on the lake right down here, not far from us, have started throwing dirt and digging and trying to build up instead of the lake running here. They are fixing it so water will not be there. And whoever else has another trail on the other side, it's stopping the water. The lake is being cut off. Now, I know I'm not using probably the right expression of the terms to explain it to you, to describe what I'm trying to say here. My conservation idea might throw water all over this lady's yard, her garden, and everything else she has. That's happening right here in Phillips County, right on this highway. That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's dangerous to me. It makes me fearful that, and I don't know if I can even say that it seems like there's a plan to cut that lake off, to break it in there, to stop it, to drive the land up on the other side. All you have to do is drive and look, observe, grind it up, so that we have, it's eventually gonna be down there somewhere, not out here. It's gonna be farther down there. We wouldn't have a lake on this area, we just a mud pile. And some kind of strange plants growing on the other side there. It's really disturbing to me to see that, because I will not give you my age. But way back when I was a little kid at West Side, we had books, and at the end of the book, sad like that. You know, you can't get to the book, the end of the book all the time. There was a place, a little chapter says conservation. I always go back there and read it. And because it was so interesting, and then, well, you know, I went a little further with that. But still, we need to do something. It's going to be, we'll get destruction instead of building up and protecting what we have. It's, I don't know the answer, but, and in Arkansas, I remember a committee that we had once, we're talking about the water. We don't have any laws, rules, and things set up in our state. We didn't then to say, or to anything about pumping all the water out of the ground. But you can do almost anything you want to. I guess I could go out there and fix up something too. And it would be okay with the state. But we need to do something, or we're destroying ourselves. Right here. From lack of knowledge and from, I guess, everybody's doing their little thing, and it's country. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So,
Yes,
oh,
go ahead. Okay, you add.
To answer your question, Ms. Phillips. The agency that I'm with, NRCS, we are not a regulatory agency. Everything that we deal with on a voluntary basis. We have outreaches such as these to reach out to those farmers to participate in our programs to alleviate what you're seeing, because I live here too, I know what you're talking about. So, this farm, Joe Farmer up the road, this farmer in the ditch, we would come out and do a field visit on his farm and suggest things to him that could help him in that, and then offer cost share to help him fix some of those things that he's doing wrong on his farm. So like you said, on the ditch, he would put in a field border to back him up off the ditch, to keep him farming in the ditch, to keep that topsoil from running off in the ditch. So, but it has to be voluntary. Basically, he has to come in and want this. We're not a regulatory agency with NRCS, but that would be something that another agency would have to handle, like a regulatory agency, like NEPA.
Like who?
I'd like to ask, how many people in the field the same way Burgess feels right now? How many of you have that same concern? Everybody, and I'd like Calvin King to hear that urgency.
Oh. That's gonna be embarrassing.
Let me say this. I really appreciate your honesty and speaking to the fact on these issues and what's occurring. So NRCS is one of the greatest resources that you have, of these basic resources you have to address these issues. And particularly this being a historic African American community, that being one, Ms. Phillips. And you know, two, everything you're talking about relates to conservation. You know, on erosion, if erosion is taking place as a result of farm activities and it's affecting the lake, and your property runs into the lake, so it's affecting, you know, your property is coming over your property onto the lake, and of course, then it may be a matter of you off the public property, either way, to have them to address that issue, to correct it, to eliminate that issue from having an adverse effect on your property, on the public property. That's one. But let me just say this, NRCS has made resources available to, and they can speak for themselves, but to Phillips County. I don't know if there's been a meeting in Lakeview or not, a public meeting to talk about this, and how much is involved, the dollar amount that's involved that should be made available to the Lakeview area to address these concerns, as it has to do with both erosions and flooding. I think that was a total of some $93 million that they have made available. And I'm not sure exactly who is administering it now. Ms. Olson might know that, Dr. Olson may know. At one time, it was the Minority Mayors Association. Okay, the Arkansas Black Mayors, I think, okay, they correct me, they know. So your people know who's administering that. So I guess the question now, your local office of NRCS is not handling that, but they could be a very, very vital resource in talking back with the state office to make sure that your concerns be accurate and that those resources are beneficial for you as well as it is for others in Phillips County. But that's both for the Helena, West Helena area, for Phillips County rural area, and all of the other small towns that are involved, and specifically as it has to do with the underserved communities and the minority or African American community. Now that's what's out there now. I don't know if you all know about those resources or not. I don't know if you all have had a public meeting about it. I don't know if they have contacted your mayor about the resources. They have contacted the mayor. They have contacted the mayor. Well, I don't know if they have or not, but they have made the resources available. It's a matter of how what the status of the plan. But one thing is for sure. If you're left out of the plan, when they start implementing the plan, you're not gonna get the benefit of those resources being applied in your area. So it's a matter of now, not later. Not later to be in the plan, because you know the planning process is taking place right now, okay? So it's really, really crucial that you're involved and understand what the plan is, that you see what that plan is, and all these areas that in Lakeview are included in that plan. So that that they're being addressed, flooding and everything else, and all that's being addressed, you know, in that plan, and the conservation practice are being applied. Ms. Phillips, you're 100% right. That doesn't exist. I go through that way sometimes, and going over into the Helena area, and there's some serious conservation issues, you know, on that side. So.
So
We are in that plan, though.
Sir?
We are in that plan.
Oh, man. Okay, so. I just, my name back to it, they're in the plan, so, your leadership is on top of that. And so if there's anything specifically you think has, you know, has not been pointed out, or you feel maybe be missed. So Matt Davis, you heard everything they said, right?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to see it?
Okay, Matt, do you want to speak to that more?
It's the Black Bears Association is in that plan, and it's the watershed project, 94 million. And we are in the plan for drainage, for digging ditches, for all types of conservation stuff. We are in the plan.
I would just encourage NRCS, the local individuals within RCS, and I know you wanted to speak to that as well. You know, I want to talk about that. That's not your programs or the other staff people that's sort of outside, but I would encourage the local staff to meet with the mayor, and that you all are familiar as much so too with the plan, with the resources, because you know exactly what the conservation practice options are and how they should be a part of, you know, inclusion in the plan as being your service area. So I would encourage you to do that along with the mayor and the other leadership here in the Lakeview area. That was a question. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. King, would it be all right to send the survey that the people who are doing the plan had a survey? They came to Central High School in Helena, West Helena. And there's a link that you could actually fill out with some of the problems and what your name, and you can hear about what's going on with the plan. I could send it to you, and then you could send it to everybody.
No, wait, but you see, we do it. Now, when they call my name, they just really mean that.
No, not that you do the plan, there's a survey of the people who are making the plan. They're collecting information from people who live here.
Okay.
And you could put that in your, I'm assuming you're gonna send a follow-up email to everybody, like we all signed in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I could send you the link to the
Okay.
survey, and then you can include that, and then everybody would get it, so they can fill it out. Cause I think the more people they hear from in Lakeview, the more they will make sure that more of that 96 million will come to help Lakeview.
Okay, I said 96 million, so I had the dollar figure on 96 million to benefit the area. We can do that. I'm gonna give that assignment to Ms. Williams, Jamie Williams from the Forest City office, so she'll have everything on the sign-in sheet and the email addresses. You all who have your email addresses, please include your email addresses on that. Now, ma'am, are you working with that planning process now?
No, I'm working with Dr. Olson, and we went to the meeting, so we created the link version of the survey with just a paper they handed out to the 10 people that were there.
Okay, we'll make sure you're on this. So there's a link, and they're gonna make that link available, and we'll work. I've been running out those for some time. We'll work with them to try to get that link to you and make sure that the mayor has that link as well.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure the mayor has that link, And so if there's anything of the ongoing process, I definitely be the localizing, you know, so anything regarding, the issues, as those issues, come up, if you wanna make sure that they are being addressed in the plan, that you can either go by the mayor's office and, we could email the link to individuals to make sure that you take the survey and we sort of just go from there. I don't know how, I ended up bringing this up, I know this not on, I'm seeing. Yes, yes.
One of the questions that just brought to my attention was, what if you don't have an email? Right. So how do they address that?
So what you said, what if you don't have an email, address, or computer? That's why I gave reference back to the mayor's office. You have to localize it. If you don't have an email, then what we're gonna act, let me just say, by the way, Mayor Davis, he's on our board of directors. That's my boss back there. I just want y'all to know that. I wanna make sure I'm doing things properly. But so we wanna localize it. One, get the link to the mayor, get copies of the survey, so you can take the survey and turn it back into the mayor's office. Obviously, he's directly involved with, and he knows what's taking place with this, with the Black Mayors Association who is administering it. But I will localize from that perspective, and we'll work that way back to the mayor's office, making sure the link is there, and Ms. Williams from the Forest City office, and we'll get it, take a look at it, and email it to all those who have email address. Mary, would that work for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so if I have a property that part of it has second water, that I want to put my hoop house in. So I'll be able to add that it's been done so that it can drain off of that property for me to be able to plant my solar plant,
Now yeah, it would definitely be, that is an NRCS, which program, one talked about the EQIP program, because I do know that EQIP can deal with those, land leveling and things of that nature. The other one was the RCPP program. Now, the RCPP program, is 40 acres or less. I know they deal with a lot of different conservation practices from that perspective, but I want to go back to the initial speaker within RCS, and she gave reference to the fact, to get things started, let's start with EQIP, and look at the practices that are offered by EQIP, and that may address the issue you were talking about regarding your land. One of the practices that would be applied along with the other practices and the hoop house, as well as the irrigation, and things of that nature. So I would probably start there, whatever the recommendation would be in our different, but they do deal with land that if it's flooding, erosion and things of that nature. That's part of their program. Okay.
I would just say it's dependable on the location, and I'm gonna get paid like that. I'm gonna let my location take it on over.
Now, when she said it was vague, you know, there are certain papers that you have to fill out. Because, like I said, we're about nature and natural resource conservation. We don't want you to drain a wetland. So in that case, you say you had about 1 acre and about half of it flooded. And it had woods on it and, well, it got a little ditch with trees, little bitty trees and bushes growing on it.
No, nothing.
Just wet.
It looks just like the yard.
Okay. Well, you would have to go to Mr. Eldridge and fill out a 1026 and get your farm. Just say if you already had everything set up, you had a farm and tract number, you had your map. You would get your map, you would mark out where you wanted to do ditch. You would fill out a 1026, that's requesting to do work on your land, endeavor like land leveling, digging ditches, certain things of that nature. Mr. Eldridge would then receive that paperwork, stamp it and send it to me. And I'll send it off to a biologist in Jonesboro. The Jonesboro will then come back and tell you whether or not you can dig that ditch right there off the basis of certain criteria he goes off of to determine whether or not it's a wetland.
I think there's a ditch already there, but it needs to be widened or something. There's a ditch already behind the property, but it needs to be widened to go out to the road instead of coming out to be on the probably where I want to put out there.
So there's a drainage issue.
Yeah, there's a drainage issue, but would I be able to add that into my practice? That's the only question I want to know.
I would recommend two things for you on that. One, that survey, and if that's a drainage issue, to make I would suggest two things. One is that your area where you live in and where you want to employ these practices. That's probably a public drainage ditch area, it's not just draining your property, it's draining. It's your own private ditch.
It's my own private issue. There's 4 acres over there, but on one corner where I want to have my practice at, there's the drainage right behind it, but I've already been to the place and they said it's because it's my personal property that I have to do. That's the reason why I asked that that be included in my practice when I got ready to do what I was gonna do.
You just had it, so, in our CS office.
Right. I just
Okay.
want them, there's what you in the process.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
You
just
can
go
go
there
there,
and
get out and actually start.
So we'll come out there.
Yes. All right.
I think this young lady kind of bitch.
Anyone else?
So
With the question.
Well, before we go, it would be remiss if I didn't mention our other partner, which is the Conservation District. We had 2 people here for that, Mr. Ronell Williams. They mentioned irrigation previously, and he's our irrigation water specialist, right? IWM specialist. He would come out and give you that, okay. All right, great. And the other person is Frederick Coleman. And he works alongside our technician to make sure that, hey, your checkouts meet our guidelines and specifications. And this is the Billings County Conservation District. Now, Mr. Ronell Williams worked in other counties, like the one Ms. Lockhart mentioned, and he's across the board, like Mr. Hunter on the RC.
How y'all doing? I don't need that, I don't know what y'all.
But hold on, the people who are online, we got online.
Oh, how y'all doing online? Ronell Williams, I'm the irrigation water management specialist for Phillips, Lee, and Monroe County. And what I pretty much do is, when these guys get the plan, I come through and, if you have anything to do with irrigation, I come through and, I give you a plan, either basic, intermediate, or advanced. And, that's basically it. Basic being the starters, advanced being, you expert, you've done it for a couple of years, so you know what you pretty much want to do on your farm. So you get implementing different devices, whether it be manual or telemetry. So really not much to it. Like I say, most of the stuff, the farmers do it anyway. Pilot pipe, computerized hole selection, automatic shut on, shut off, just different things to help conserve water. Like Ms. Phillips said, you can ride by and you can see a lot of water in the ditches. That's called runoff. When you see that, you're actually wasting money. So just different things like that. We try to help them conserve money because water is the only thing on your farm that you have control of or anything else. So I would say probably the most important person in the room with that.
Right.
See, but. Okay, that was a lot of information and very important information
And we wanna thank, NRCS, Ms. Tressa, Benjamin, for her staff. Thank you,
No, I said.
yeah. Thank you all so much. That was really good. Yeah.
I have a question. All this information that y'all provided was very helpful today, but I was led here wrong. I was thinking it was about the discrimination and farmers discrimination thing.
We're gonna come back to that too.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Our next program is with Farm Service Agency. And they're gonna speak on IRA and the ARPA resource opportunities with USDA. We have Theodore Eldridge Jr. and microurban farming with Natasha Berry. They will come up next.
Good morning. My name is Natasha Berry. I'm located at the Phillips County FSA office in the federal building. Today, I am going to be talking on different types of loan programs and financing that will be available to farmers. And I'm also going to be talking about the discrimination assistance program. So, FSA does have various loan programs available to producers. The microloan program is one of these programs. And this program is geared toward smaller farmers who would need at least $50,000 to do their operation. These loan funds can be used to purchase equipment. It can be used for operating expenses such as feed, fuel, chemicals. The interest rate for the microloan program is 5% for this month. It can be lower, but this month is 5% because the direct loan program is over 5%, is at 5.125%. The next loan program that we have is the direct loan program. This loan program is geared toward farmers who have larger operations, and that loan limit for this program is $400,000. You can get $400,000 or less. The $400,000 can be split. You can use $200,000, say, for equipment purchases, or $200,000 for your operating expenses. Yes.
But the difference in the micro loan and the direct farmers loan, you said one's fixed and one is, what's the amount of land considered a smaller farmer opposed to larger?
Okay, so you can use the micro loan program to purchase for farm ownership, okay? It depends on how much that you're going to need to purchase a farm. Okay, the micro loan program is really for farmers that don't have a lot of farm experience. Okay, all right, we're here to get your foot in the door so you can go to the direct loan program, which would allow you more financing up to $400,000. So if you have never farmed before and would like to get into farming, the micro loan program is a program that would work for you. Okay, but if you need more than $50,000, we would have to look at the direct loan program. Okay, all right. So there is also a guaranteed loan program, and this program is geared toward bigger farmers. The guaranteed loan program, the producer would have to find a lender in the area that would be willing to do a guarantee with FSA. And what this guarantee does is we're saying that we would provide 90 or 95% guarantee to these lenders if this loan is not paid back. Now, with the guarantee loan program, the bank is our customer. We do not talk to the producer. The banks talk to the producer, okay? Now, if you're a beginning farmer, we do offer the banks up to a 95% guarantee. If you're a non-beginning farmer, we do offer them a 90% guarantee, okay? And those loan funds can be used for operating expenses as well, equipment purchases, and farm ownership, okay? All right, now let me go back to the micro loan program and the direct loan program.
If there is any questions, please wait until the speaker finish and then ask them, hold them until then. Write down your question that you want to answer, that you won't answer if possible, and then speak with her and ask.
So for the micro loan and the direct loan program, there is an application process. There is a new simplified application process. And what this simplified application process, in previous years, we had multiple forms that you would submit to FSA along with the application. This year I think effective January 13th, our application, all the forms were condensed into one application. This application, you would use it for your micro loan, if you're applying for a micro loan or a direct loan. All right, now when you submit the application, it is very important that you complete as much information as you can before you submit it. If you need help with the rest, you can contact a loan officer or someone in the Farm Loan Programs Division to assist you with completing the rest of the application. Now, once you submit your application, it's a time frame. We review your application. If there's anything that we need, we will send you a letter. And it's an incomplete letter. Please do not disregard these letters. You are on time frames to provide us the additional information that's requested to complete your application request, okay? All right, so if anyone needs an application, they can see me at the end of the meeting, and I can go more into detail about the application process, eligibility requirements, and any other information that you may have regarding loans, okay? All right, so the next thing I'm gonna talk about is the discrimination assistance program. I do want to advise you that with this program, it changes daily. It changes daily. But the information that I'm going to give you is the latest information that I have, which was, I think it was September the 5th. So if I tell you something today, next week, it may change. Now, I did bring fact sheets to tell you how to apply for this discrimination program. All right, and I do want to iterate that this program is for producers that received loans prior to 2021. Okay, so there is a process, okay? You have to request your records, and there has been an update. The deadline to request your records was September the 6th. It has been extended to September the 29th, okay? All right, so, yes.
I've got y'all, but those records are, if you put in a lot no long before, right?
Yes, prior to 2021.
Okay.
Okay, so under no circumstances, FSA employees are not making copies of files. You have to go through this process. And like I said, I really would love for everyone to get one of the handouts that I have over there, at least after the meeting, because it does tell you how to apply. All right, so you may ask, what is the discrimination assistance program? This program, Congress authorized $2.2 billion for farmers, ranchers that have experienced discrimination with USDA. The application process opened July the 7th, and you have until October the 31st to submit your application. You can submit it online. If you put it in the mail, it has to be postmarked by October the 31st. Let me repeat. It has to be received or postmarked by October the 31st. Okay, the application is 40 pages, it's detailed. Please do not wait till October the 31st to submit that. With that application, you have to upload any documentation that you have, okay? Now, it is very important that you know that this program is not a first come, first served basis. Applicants, if you need technical assistance getting it completed, you reach out to any resources that are available. And the resources are on the fact sheets, and you can find more information online, okay? This program is a financial assistance program. It's not a compensation program, okay? It's not designed to provide full compensation if you've been discriminated, but to provide financial assistance to producers. So, like I said, it is a process, and it's gonna take time for each application to be reviewed. Applications are scheduled to be reviewed late November, December. It's not gonna be reviewed by the county office. It's not gonna be reviewed by the county office or the state office, right, Mr. King? So, the best thing to do is to start on your application. That's what you decide to do. And remember the date, October the 31st. It has to be postmarked or it has to be submitted online by October the 31st. And you have to have USDA loans prior to 2021. Okay. Or try to get a loan. Thank you, Mr. King. Yes.
No, I tried to get along.
Yes,
Yeah,
right,
but you
yes.
didn't get them.
But just trying to get along, mean that you actually turn in an application.
Yes.
You went in and
You
you
have
had to put an application in government section. Exactly.
Not necessarily, man. The first thing, everyone, you know what your experiences were, if you had an experience, with USDA. You know, I have clients that had experiences, with USDA, and I won't say intentional, but it happens, it actually happens. From that standpoint, so it may have to be very sweet, and I'm gonna say this now, most of these folks up here, young folks, some of the stuff we talk about this, so, it may have, but, I wouldn't add in. Because, one of the things in the application that it says, it actually, what county was it, and what was the name of the person? That was in the county office at that time, and I was reminiscing, going back through, just looking at some of our files. And who was in those offices in the 70s, and who was in those offices, in the 80s, okay? I don't even know if some of these folks even born there. But, it's bad, it was just, so. Those are just some key points. So you have to know who's in the office,
What year?
what year it was that you had the experience itself, and what was that experience with the USDA office that you are filing your claim on. And it varies, from one point to the other, from the ones that I've heard, everything that I've seen, don't get me wrong. Those things I've actually seen, as well as those that I've heard people communicate to me. And we all know, I worked for USDA for a while. I was in that post office over there for a while. So trust me, I know. And none of them were even around. Now the name Elvis may have been around, but it wasn't this Elvis.
It was.
He wasn't around, and he wasn't in the Phillips County office either. So I'm just saying, if you haven't seen the application, You need to access the application online and review the application of more specific of what those questions are and what you would have to answer. The other, she gave reference to 40 pages long. The 40 pages, that she gave reference to the application itself. That does not include the support documentation that you need to send with that. The other thing that they talked about was specific reference to all the files that you asked for from USDA. Now, people say, well, I need to have my old application, which they probably do not have, may possibly have the old application in the archive, possibly, doubtful.
Yeah.
If you have been a producer and if you got a loan from that.
Yeah, and some of our records have been destroyed depending on.
For years.
Yeah,
Right.
that was.
Right. The other thing is that while it taught, they give a lot of emphasis on USDA, and getting files and giving September 29th. If you had the experience and you had a loan, and it's not just relative to 007, it's also relative to 006. You know, if those debts have not been taken off, and particularly if it was air property, okay? Nobody, I don't hear anybody talking about the courthouse. If you got a loan, you got one of those letters that have all those loan numbers on there, which most of you have gotten those, and whether debt still exists, and that letter will say whether it was an operating loan, a farm ownership loan, or an emergency loan. You got the F, O, and OL, and the EL, okay? It has all that on there in the code, and the year. If you have that document, and you know the year it was, then you can go to the courthouse and get the promissory note and the mortgage. That's also an acceptable supporting documentation. The city, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The courthouse would only have, a copy of the real estate mortgage. But that real estate mortgage, as Mr. King said, it will have the date on there, which is very important. It will also have loan amounts. So there, on the application, you would have a space where you can put how much your loan was for. So I'm glad Mr. King brought that up. So the courthouse would be a great resource for additional documentation to attach to your application, okay? The courthouse.
The clerk.
The circuit clerk's office, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The circuit clerk.
The county office that you originated.
If it's Phillips County, of course, Helena, West Helena, you know, the county clerk's office, the Lee County clerk's office in, Lee County. Same thing will be for Monroe County, which would be in Clarendon. So Mariana, Helena, West Helena, and then Clarendon, of course, St. Francis County would be in Forest City. As far as the mortgage itself is concerned, but those also, and you're right, you don't have a promissory note, but some of them, they only have just a promissory note. May not have the mortgage or the old file particularly, but that's other documentation, not just saying I need to get my application stuff from FSA.
If you did not have a real estate mortgage where FSA took real estate for security, you can also access the Secretary of State because we file UCCs with the Secretary of State.
Right.
The UCCs are filed on the loan closing date. So you would have the date that your loan was closed and what was taken for security. If you don't have a mortgage to go by. So that is an additional tool to help you, decide when you got a loan or when you file for, pay for your real estate mortgage.
And people, let me say that in certain cases on this, it involves air property.
Yes.
It involves air property, okay? So if it involves air property, it may be where it was a co-borrower and the co-borrower is deceased.
Yes.
Because there's a certain way you have to answer that step in the application as well. So it may be, I call I say that the co-borrower, and then the co-borrower and the spouse of deceased, then you need to understand their property also.
Yes.
Then who all are heirs to, or who all have inherited this debt. Okay, to know what the law is, some think or feel that it is that if the husband passed, that then only the wife has inherited the husband's interest. I'm not quite sure about that in the state of Arkansas. Now, some say, well, there's their property involved, if the husband passed, then the wife inherited half of the interest and the children have an interest of the other half.
Right.
Okay, now that's the way it normally goes. So you have to be careful in that question area when you start to talk about heirs, heir property. We have a book, I believe, right?
Well, we passed them out,
Okay.
our property book.
Right, so, well, we have a publication on the heir property, but if you don't have one, if you, get your name and address into us, we'll make it our business to get one in the mail to you. I'll stop by the office in Forest City, Ms. Williams, they have copies there to get it to you. But it explains decent and distribution of heir property, who inherits and how they inherit, because some of that information has to be put on the application if it's an heir property.
So how many in the room know exactly what is heir property? Okay, great. So heir property is family-owned land that is jointly owned by descendants of the deceased person whose estate did not clear probate. Descendants or heirs may have the right to use the property, but lack of clear title to the property. Heir property issues have been a long barrier, especially in underserved communities, okay? So if you have heir property, farm loan programs do have programs for you. Like I say, you can contact me in the Phillips County FFA office, but I did want to touch a little on heir property. Okay. That is all I have on the left.
The heir property loan program. We have an heir property loan.
We do have an heir property loan. I'm sorry.
Can you stand? Okay.
Did I understand you correctly, that you said that this refers to property that did not clear probate?
No, basically what she was saying is that, if you have heir property, sometimes you have heir property been probated, and the court decree itself may not necessarily deal with, set up the will, like you just probated it without a will. There may not be a clear administrative authority that is given by the court decree, saying that John Doe is the administrator for Susie Q's estate. So that's one. So it's basically saying that it's been probated, and these individuals in the probate process have been determined to be the heirs or interest holder of this estate. That's all you come up with, and you have undivided interest in the property. There's new laws that deal with that now. But if you were going to sign up for certain program services, and it is heir property with NRCS, then if you don't have the administrative authority, clear control of that property and the authority to sign up, even to get a farm number, then I don't think you can get a farm number without it, am I right? That's right. So if it's their property and you don't have the administrative authority that has been established by way of the courts in a probate process, and this person is administrator for this estate that involves 20 folk, 10 folk, 3 folk, okay? Then you have a problem getting certain services.
Thank you.
Attorney?
Let me just put one thing, the FSA loan program. FSA Air Property Loan Program. Now, that is, that loan program is administered by a third party. So they have selected individuals, some are community development finance institutions, CDFIs, and other banks that make those loans. It's a relending program, right?
Yes, it's the heirs property relending program.
Right.
Okay, and that program is another avenue for heirs to receive legal title to the property.
Yes. That's what I wanted.
The heirs relending program.
That's the one I don't know.
Yeah, that's what-
Heirs property relending program.
That's the one you-
And like he said, it's done through a third party.
I got a question.
Yes.
Is it question time?
Wait, we're up there because she's about to ready to turn to
Okay.
FMA.
Is it the
Okay,
question?
go ahead.
I wanna ask.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so what's the difference is, and let's say I have farm loans out, and what's the difference is I attempted to apply for a loan. Can you tell me what the difference is? in that?
If you attempted to apply for a loan,
And then, yeah,
you actually turned in an application. Okay. If you applied for a loan, you went through the whole process, okay?
so I could have turned in an application and never heard anything from, like, somebody could have threw it away. I'm just asking questions, looked on funds.
But like, if you turn in an application, FSA has to respond. Because once you turn in that application, the time frame falls back on us to respond to it, okay? So we have, the application is either gonna be withdrawn or approved or rejected.
Okay, so you couldn't have had no wire hair that day and then like,
Let-
I'm just asking you a question.
Yeah, there was a basic question. I've been going through kind of legal guide in this whole process now, training guide. One, did people have this experience? Yes, they did. People had experiences while they went into the office and said, well, I'd like to make applications to Farmers Home Administration. I need to get a farm loan, okay? And no, and I'm not saying this generation of folks, but they have gone to there and then they will tell me, well, we out of money now. Okay, well, we out of money. And so when they tell them they out of money, it's like saying, we're not taking applications right now. Did that happen? Yes, it did. It did happen, okay? There have been experiences that people had where they actually tried to turn in an application and they looked at the application and gave the application back to them. Do I know that? Yes, I do know that. I do know that, and I have seen that, okay? And I did work for FHA for a while. So you said, what have the experiences been? They have had different types of experiences. If you tell me you ain't got no money now, so we really don't have no money. Were they telling the truth? Yes, they were telling the truth, but they were not giving you the whole truth in certain cases. So they may be out of money for that month, am I right? But it don't mean they won't have no money next month. So they didn't say, may not have said, we don't have any more money we can loan for this month, but if you come back next month, we'll have some money. What they should have said, we're out of money, but go ahead and turn your application in, and we can't deal with them until next month. So I'm just saying, did people have those experiences? How many experiences they had? They had a lot of different experiences. And this is not a defense part to USDA and the thing like that, but I just like to put it, on the table where it is. USDA has already said, otherwise the money would be made available, okay? That's system of discrimination itself. So they made $2.2 billion available. That came by way of the legislative act itself and the application process for and how it would be administered. The USDA did that. Say, this is the system for discrimination. It won't make anything whole from history or anything else. Well, they're gonna be damaged, not gonna affect it. But USDA has said this has happened. That's one. That's one. Two, USDA has also said by way of what they call the crack report, the Civil Rights Action Team report, they have said this has happened. There has been discrimination within USDA. Programs have not been implemented in an equal and equitable manner. as it relates to USDA farm service, and they can just list farm service agency. I know y'all always saying farm service agency, but it wasn't just farm service agency. You know, that, NRCS too, you know, but they did not. They did not, and you know, we have to understand what the past has bothered us and what this point and what you're dealing with now. That's one. There was also the Jackson Lewis report. So USDA, so they did their own reports, and another report said we're gonna hire an independent outside source to do an assessment of this. Jackson Lewis report, the same thing. Now one thing is that sometimes the information is out there, if you have not read the history on this, then you don't really know. But all I know is that I do know this happened. I remember when they did it to my husband, I remember they did it to me and all this kind of stuff. And you know how our memory is, it's kind of like me, you know, I just don't have the same memory I used to have, you know. No, I did not, I did years ago back. But the point is that you said, no, they just won't, that's not true. They do, and they have said it. They have said it, they have said it. And if you read and look at the application, the way that the application is structured, that 40 pages, the way that those questions are asked, and the way that those statements are made, it is in certain cases relative to what could have happened or what did happen and how you have to answer those questions. You know, that's why it's 42 pages long, because there was so many types of situations, and you would know how it applied and how you need to create or deal with that narrative relative to what you say, but this is the way it was with me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I do want to say one more thing about the discrimination assistance program. If you have a deceased loved one that had farm, you can apply on their behalf.
Yes. With the right paper.
With the right, you have to have the documentation to
Yes.
support your application, okay? So if they are deceased, you can apply on their behalf. I'm gonna, yes.
They want, would that be that person that say she can apply and then for her aunt's spot, plus her
Well, if both parties had experience, okay, if you know this is what happened to the mom, then you'll be applying for the loan. If then the other individual knows maybe the child and they have an experience also, and I know certain cases like that did, and I won't even cite certain examples, but if that happened, then you'll be applying on your behalf, and you know you're gonna be dealing with death certificate and things of that nature, certain ID or death certificate will have the point of evidence that individual being deceased. Now, let me just say this also in reference to that, you also have the legal authority to represent. So if you're representing particular air property, be very mindful. Again, there are gonna be areas in there, and I was only saying if there was a co-borrower. If it is air property and you're the heirs to it, there are 10 other folks involved, it becomes a little bit more complicated. Particularly if you don't have a statement of administrative authority to apply for, and that's dealing with other siblings. And that you get in the interest holders and all this, you know, too. So it's and I was saying this too. This is based on past experience and what I've seen. There were people who applied for Pickford, they prevailed in Pickford, they got a check and they couldn't put it in the bank. They couldn't put it in the bank because it was their problem. Was the bank right? Yes, they were right. But the banks don't want to be sued saying you took a check that I was entitled to and they put it in the bank in their name and they went out and paid their house off. Okay, but they should have been paying off this loan with FSA on our family land, and they had filed on behalf of the head. I'm only using an example. I know none of us know in good conscience, none of us really did that. But I'm saying, so if the banks, it happened before, they had to go through the process, you know, of trying to get the legal authority after the fight. And trust me, I know of some heck of some cases in that too, you know, from the Pickford versus Lakeview. So I'm only saying that heirs to and experience, but it run to FSA and air property and other things, but you got an experience on one hand. That's one individual, but then you have an air situation on the other, applying on behalf of. So just be aware of that, but you'll see based on the questions. Okay.
Someone had their hand up back in the back there, but
I was told that, as you worked on the farm with your granddaddy, worked on the farm, you could file on his behalf, his granddaddy was dead, and you don't have information. Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna be just as straight with you as I possibly can. And I'm an heir too, I'm a trustee for an estate, my parent. But we have all the legal documentation of the probate process, and you have a court decree from that perspective, so I serve as administrative and legal representative for the trust, that's one. As far as farm workers are concerned, and filing on behalf, and I'm here to the filing on behalf of the grandfather who worked on the farm, there's nothing in the application, I don't know any other way to put it. There's nothing in the application that gives reference to farm workers. There's absolutely nothing.
Right.
And I've gone through that entire application, I've heard folks say it, and Colin was, I chop cotton, my folks chop cotton, and we worked over here, but no, sir.
FSA farm programs. Farm program.
Theo Eldridge with Farm Service Agency, are we through hashing the discrimination?
That's one.
All right, with myself, please say that, raise your hand. Ms. Ava Hudson and Mr. Darian Davis and Ms. Sharika Turner, is that door?
Yeah.
Where you want me to start?
Beginning, when they come in FSA, where to get a farm number, where to start, programs that you have and what, deadlines, that's over with now, I know, but
The type of program you'll have to pay money. Everybody wants to. Yeah.
So, a few things that we look at, when you come from NRCS and you come to FSA, so we're the agency of record. Basically, what that means, we're just taking your name, address, communication numbers, and putting it in our system, which makes what we call you're participating at FSA. Now, that's where we actually stop until we start having a conversation. And what we want to know from there, are you raising, or is your plan to raise vegetables for yourself personally? You're gonna eat them, you and your family? Or are you growing vegetables to sell to a market? Whether it's your market established or some established market like a Walmart or a food market or something like that, where you have contracts. And that's the distinction of where our programs can start helping small farmers who want to do gardens or grow from there versus you want your land improved at NRCS, which has nothing to do with us. We're only entering your information into the system. And so Dr. King was trying to figure out how small a farm could be. Basically, we're able to draw a farm of 0.001 acre. That's basically 40 feet by 40 feet. 20 feet by 20 feet is about the smallest that we can draw. So if you go to Google Earth on your or Google Maps, we have that same imagery, and we take our or Darren actually does it now. He draws it by the description of the land that you own or where NRCS says that garden should be. So that's that process where we can come in. If you're growing commercially, then we can offer a product called NAP, or our non-insured produce program, where we can offer you insurance based on figures, how much does a row of onions produce? And we have all of these numbers that we go by to set the insurance rates. But what is needed from that is that you keep records of how much you grow, how much came up, how much was destroyed, how much you sold. You have to keep your own records. Dr. King has many years of asking and
you know, for producers wearing records. Because that's important for us to know, important for you to know. And then from there, if you're doing commercially, our loan programs become available to help assist you with different equipment you may need, refrigerated truck, cold storage, tiller, tractors, you know. So what I like to do, and I like this format because it's conversation. I have never seen any of you in my office except 3, maybe 4. So that tells me a lot. The issues that you're having, and let me put it like this, we get up, if we're FSA or you're a farmer, traditionally, we talk about cotton farmers, rice farmers, and all that, but we're trying to include a new generation into FSA, and especially with urban ag coming on board. But we get up and do this every day. So I've been in Helena 16 years, and if I don't know you, that means I haven't been to your farm and you haven't been to my office. So again, it's what you want to do, so we can put a plan together to help you do that. If you have flooding, well, let me ask the question. How many landowners do we have here? All right. How many of you rent your land out to a farmer? All right. How many of you getting barely enough to pay your taxes on your lands? And there you go. All right, so who is in charge of your farm? You rent it out. Is it? Who farm is it?
Let me say that. I'm asking because I'm a landowner too, and I rent land out. Even based on USDA requirements itself and access to resources, program payments, then the person who is in charge of the farm and that's eligible for those payments is the operator.
I agree.
Okay, you know what, let me ask the question now, Okay. So, I don't want anybody to misinterpret and say, okay, I'm in charge, so, you know, man, David, you gotta give me that check from those program payments, so I don't wanna communicate on that. One, but now who's in charge? You're in charge on the basis as the owner with certain other responsibilities. You're being in charge. You're responsible for collecting your own rent. Ain't nobody gonna collect it for you because you own the land. You're responsible for paying the taxes. It's your land. So it's your liability and debt that you have to pay. Okay, so you are in charge from there's an ownership basis of in charge, and then there is a basis of in charge based on control of the land at that point. Because the rental agreement clearly states that that operator has control of the land, and you specifically outline in that control that you do not bear or should not have any liabilities on anything that the operator may do that may create a liability for you. You put that in your agreement to make sure that is very clear. But then you also put in your lease agreement that the operator cannot sublease and has a responsibility for certain other things as it relates to the land. That shows your control and ownership of the land by way within the context of the lease, on one hand as an owner, but given the authority and control with certain responsibilities as the operator of the land also can control. So it's a two-way process.
MOU, I mean, with the
Yeah,
lease and
yeah.
ownership.
Does that sound good from Dr. King? Everybody? All right. We're on the same page. Let me keep going. The control is stated in the lease, it's whatever you put in the lease.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you don't put in the lease that he needs, or that farmer needs to abide by NRCS regulations, be enrolled in CSP, be enrolled in EQIP, then that's on you for not putting that in your lease. To go even a step further, if I don't have the trust that my farmer is capable of doing or farming in a conservative manner, as an owner, I can take that responsibility upon myself. NRCS does it every day. They can contract out with the landowner instead of the land operator. That is not talked about enough. So my basic point is, if you don't know me and I don't know you, that just tells me you're involved in your own farm. And if USDA is gonna be of assistance to you or help you better your farm, then you must become active, either personally or through a representative of some type who's involved with our office. So if I have irrigation issues on my farm, if I have any issue that USDA can address and those issues are not being addressed, it's because you are not involved as the landowner to take care of your problem. That's what we are here for. So whatever issue you have, please come by my office so we can at least sit down and talk to you about it and make a plan on resolving those issues. Now, that's my spiel, and I can bag everything I say up.
Can you tell the location of the location you're at?
617 Walnut Street, Eleanor, South Road, second floor of the federal building.
Is there any questions out here?
Ms. Phillips.
There's no such list. There's no such list.
No. You said, do you have a list of what? Rent rates.
Now, you know, per property.
You can Google, ask Syria, what's the average rent rate? For a particular county. And also county extension can get some basic information, but you know, you can get a sense of what and understand two things. Irrigated, non-irrigated has two different road rates. You may be paying $60, you pay $60, $50 acre for irrigated, non-irrigated land, and if you irrigate it, put irrigation on have land level, it may be $125 an acre, $100 an acre, you know. So, yeah, right. And if it has crop base, what are your crop bases? The static crop bases on the crop, that's FSA also to tell you what the crop bases are that we have on the crop. Now, let's tell you two things, very true. One, we on the same page. You know, I just dealt with flood control live. You know, it live with people there, the operating side, the ownership side. But the other thing he was saying, I hope you heard us very loud and clear, very loud and clear. You need to know the type of resource that's offered by USDA. And you may be the owner, but then you and the operator are partners, okay? And as the operator partnering with the owner, you should want your partner, you all should be in agreement that certain resources are applied for to the extent that it's beneficial for your land. Like first, if you have non-irrigated land that's valued at what, average about $3,000 an acre, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You want to say okay, let's say $2,500 an acre for a non-irrigated land. If you're gonna put in a conservation easement program, I said this is clear land. I think clear land in the conservation easement program under permanent easement about $2,300 an acre, I think. So, okay, it's roughly, I think if you put it in conservation easement basic, you put it in NRCS conservation easement program. Some of them said you can get up to $2,300 an acre for non-irrigated land and $3,000+ an acre for irrigated land in conservation easement, permanent conservation easement, okay? So now that tells you something right there. If you're not using the resources, I understand it, our time is up. So I'm just gonna say, I wanna make sure these folks get the information at this point in time, and they disagree with me on that, and then we only did 2 hours. And they say, well, said 2 hours, they can give y'all enough time, and I agree with y'all, right, she's the one did it, but me, there's no one. No point to blame.
That's what it always been.
But people, let me just say this, and I think all the agencies would agree, and Mr. Elvis had really voiced it very clear. He said, talk to him.
Yeah.
Talk to him. He said it loud and clear, y'all. I hope you heard us. Talk to him, come see. And he said, I like this type of discussion and this type of meeting. We changed our work when they come in and pad you some sheets out and put that field up on the date and y'all read that. And then they get through with no question, nobody asked no question, nobody had no discussion, everybody go out the door. And then you go out the door and somebody says, well, what went on them leaks? I really don't know, but they showed a whole lot of stuff they put up on the thing, and we was reading some of them, had on the replay and get on. Discussion makes a difference. So that's what it's all about. Open-based discussions, we call them roundtable discussions, town hall meeting, whatever you want to call it. Dan, you have a question?
Yes. Mr. Eldridge, are you able to enforce some of what, Ms. Phillips was talking about? Like if a big landowner is violating some of the conservation rules and it's affecting everybody else, are you able to enforce anything because they have an agreement with you that they're gonna do conservation? You like take some of their money back or hold their money? Is that a possibility? Like, if Griffin is screwing up Old Town Lake, can you do something about it?
Well, and I'm letting you just come out and say it. So let me drive home the point again. I have some leases that look like this, is one page. I have other leases that look like this.
Yeah.
All right. I have some land that's paying $50 because the county committee says $50 per acre is the lowest we will accept without asking questions. But they also said $225 per acre is the most we'll accept without asking questions. Why is one farm paying $50 an acre? And why is the other farm paying $225? So the conversation is not specifically on any individual, it's making a plan for you to bring your $50 up high as you want to go, because I can guarantee you, if you ask, he has invested in his land, in every acre of his land. If you have $50, I can guarantee you, you have not invested anything in your land. You're dependent on the farmer to pay you rent and improve your land because you want more rent next year. So once we catch the landowner up on their options and opportunities and responsibilities, then you can better make a partnership with the farmer to increase your land rent, because that's all it comes to at the end of the day, more money.
Now, Mr. Ellis, you're talking about the conservation reserve for the land. So,
That's just saying,
I'm talking about actual farms. In every county, there's a, no, I understand, there's another question that the payment for the conservation reserve program now, with NRCS, what's the maximum payment on that program? Per acre. No.
How do you enforce that they're actually conserving? So.
they talking about the property.
Okay, so.
Yes, you can go.
All right. Specifics, yeah, we have to talk, especially NRCS is here, but I'm saying, or trying to get what you saying. If another farmer is impeding on your ground, yes, there are some things that we can do and put in place. And there's also some power that the landowner has themselves. But most of your relief is going to come from a third party, whether that's the sheriff, the judge, county judge, or regulatory agencies like the thank you.
Yeah.
So even though you control money, you can't.
It depends on the violation, if it's a violation.
Man, look, I'm gonna say two things to make sure that you definitely use the resources of the agencies.
Yes.
So you should have the agencies to come out and deal with the descriptive basis of the type of damages that's taking place. As a result of these practices here, it is creating an erosion situation on my land, okay? Creating a flood situation because you have changed the natural water flow in a fashion that results in damages to my property, okay? Which you cannot by law change natural water flow, okay, to the land. So to have that documented from the resource agency, you know, this natural water flow has been changed. These practices here that are being applied to this land is creating an erosion on this side, or flooding on this side, then you have documentation. Based on that documentation, you have to give notification then to the one who's the cause of it. Once that notification is there, and you have them to cease those activities that's resulted in these type of damage. And once you have that, or you can just have a lawyer to write the letter and send it to them. This is what we have evidence of. This is what's taking place in these experts that were set forth that's causing this problem for me. And have the attorney send a notice or just write a nice letter yourself. You want to be a nice neighbor first. And then have the lawyer write the letter. So, but we all want to be neighbors now, right? But that's just a suggestion. I'm not saying do this or do that. I'm saying that's just a suggestion. On the CR, the conservation reserve, yes, I think that there's a question online. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know who is addressed to, but they wanted any advice on wind farm projects. They want to know if they are risky. I don't know who is addressed to.
Farm project?
Wind farm project.
Oh, wind farm project. It's a good thing that that question came up. Because I have questions myself, and hopefully we'll have a meeting with NRCS under what they call smart agricultural practices and smart conservation practices. A lot of you may have seen things that come in the mail. That Mr. Elder say how your land is used and how lease contracts go out. If someone wants to give you a lease agreement on your land, they may only want 1 acre on the front end, 5 acres on the front end to put up wind turbos, and you're gonna be paid a certain dollar amount. You better know what that lease is saying, because they have these type of leases very complicated, and you may end up not getting what you could possibly get from your land from a resource perspective. And those are again, it's energy conservation. I don't know if they're applying that for conservation, I think elements anyway, on the conservation practices on the land now. They also are doing it with energy, using the, what do they call them? Solar power is a big thing. They are going to, she's finally here, she's gotten some of that communication. They are sending letters to landowners, and they figure out who the landowners are. Either they said that you as a landowner or your heir, your parents and stuff, in their name, whoever's getting that mail, that they want to give you a lease agreement to put up solar panels like solar farm. And I just only want so many acres, on the front end. Consult with your agencies about these type of practices on the farm. Know about the program, and it may be, and I don't know if FSA is doing this or not. I know they're not going to talk about it yet. If it's going to be in the farm bill. It may be possible that either rural development, and they're not here, and I know we're out of time. They say I took the time over, but I do know that rural development funds and finance energy program. Okay, that's under them on energy. Now, whether they will be the funders for solar energy going on land, and then how that will relate back to conservation and NRCS, I don't know. My quick point, and almost when I say conservation reserve program, you have the CSP program, conservation stewardship practice, NRCS. You have the conservation reserve program, that's FSA. Yes. And that pays so much per acre just to let your land lay out 15 years. That's like a
CRP.
Yeah, 15 years conservation easement. Yes. So that's a time limit. You have a permanent easement with NRCS. So once you put it in, it stays in, and so much paper per acre in on that. I know, folks, we out of time, but my ending point is this. Rural development is a major resource in these 3 areas. It is a major resource for housing, affordable housing. They have also a 1% interest rate loan up to $40,000 based on eligibility requirements. Now, one, you have to be 62 years of age or older or disabled. For the 40, no, you don't nowhere close to qualifying. You was close to qualifying. Aren't you the veteran? Well, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I didn't know. See, never speak and say something that you really don't know. You don't have the right information first, don't say nothing. And see, I didn't have the right information. I apologize. Thank you for your service. But this is the veteran. So you have the renovation program, 1% interest rate up to $40,000 and a $10,000 grant based on eligibility requirement. That's $50,000 dealing with renovation, USDA rural development, housing. On their home ownership, new construction. At one time, I was thinking it was up to $368,000 for home ownership. That may be different now. Some costs have gone down. And they do that both as a direct loan and a guaranteed loan. Meaning you go to the bank, you get the loan, and then you can get it guaranteed up to 90% or 95% by USDA rural development. That's on the housing program, affordable housing. In addition to that, on the loan housing side, they have community facilities, both loan and grants. That's a fire station, a community facility that may be used for public use or purposes itself. That you can get a certain dollar amount, and it varies, that you may qualify for in your area on a community facility, loan or grant. It's based on the economic basis and the area income, average income of the area, things of that nature. But that's a grant program and a loan program on community facilities. In addition to the community facilities, loan and grant, and the housing, rural development also have a business loan program. So we have both a business loan program as a direct and a guaranteed program that you can go to your local lender for business loan. They also have a business grant program. Now, the business grant, we used to call it Rural Business Enterprise Grant. I think it's a different abbreviation for that now, but it's a grant program for rural business. And the process on that used to be eligibility. One is nonprofit, community-based organization. The other that the city can apply for such a grant program to support a new business startup or business expansion in that area, for the city limits where the city is concerned. So there's also a business grant and a business loan program. Now, they also deal with water sewer. If there's an issue in relation to water sewer systems, expansion of water sewer systems, municipality again and county, they have the water sewer program for both the improvements or expansion of those particular utility type of services. USDA rural development, and that's only some of the program areas that they have. They have a cooperative loan program. If folks get together and say we're going to create a cooperative, we got 10 urban farms over here, and we're going to create us a cooperative, and we want to apply for a cooperative grant planning program. That's USDA rural development on the financing side, but they have both cooperative loan and cooperative grants, on those two areas. Okay, and then RBAG, Rural Business Enterprise, RBAG is the grant program. If you're dealing with grants for business startup, business expansion, and things of that nature, cooperative grant and loan program, is the other. And water sewer system, community facilities, grant, loan, all this information is online, people. You can go and Google, and I do, some of my staff talk about me because of stuff I be doing just on the computer, looking for stuff all the time to read. But you can Google USDA, you can go to all the states, you hit Arkansas, you go to the state office and you can pull up and see all their programs. Those of you who have computers and want to do that, or you can just take your phone and say, Siri, tell me about Arkansas USDA program. And it will Siri would put it up, show it to you and tell you about it. Yeah, my closing point on that, if you don't have any questions, USDA, rule of, oh, and let me just say this,
It's on their.
you can also visit our website. Our website, wanna write this down, if you go to our website.
Booklet.
Yeah, yeah,
On your program.
it's on your booklet, you can go to our website, and we have a link that takes you to all these resources and all of these agencies, and what we're talking about here, you can go to our website and access that. Y'all can also look at and see some of the other things we've been doing, you see hoop houses, what these hoop houses really look like, you know, and from that standpoint. My other point from Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation, we work with individual clients. If you're gonna be a beginning farmer, and you're applying for a direct loan, with, farm service agency, we work with individuals in developing those farm business plans. That's one of the things we do as well as with our services. We also work with individual clients in developing the application to apply for conservation program services. So once you submit that in to them, they're gonna get that book out there, right? And we do that electronically a lot of times, you know, by way of, be it by email, just because they do a lot of technology stuff, you know, on that. My last point of closing, we have a conference that's coming up October the 27th. That's close to the deadline for your application to be postmarked and put in the mail, for the application for discrimination assistance. But we will be providing an update, then on where things are. We do try to assess and give people guidance on the application process. You know, our number, I think our phone number is on here also, so you can call our office. I'll call Miss Williams, Jamie Williams, make sure you have her contact information, Mr. Larry Lofton, and that's our Brinkley office, that's listed here on the program agenda here. I'm hopeful we can put this part to rest. And some things that I've heard of people say, you know, the just don't have the right information. Now, of course, we recorded this also, so we'll have them on our website talking about that, so they will know when that's not true. You know, I've heard folks saying, yeah, all this information here, we've been hearing about this, and man, USDA, they're not telling us nothing about this financial assistance, you know, application and the process on how to apply. Now, you all probably heard that too, right? Now, y'all see that's not true, right?
That's right.
You say, it just, I know it just happened today, but well, you know, I understand, well, we should have been up on a meeting before now.
You've been having meetings.
But, you know, we've been having meetings in other areas, but I wanna say that, the people, I see, I'm located in Forest City and Breckenridge. This is a local office, so you can tell people, if they don't have all the information, or they wanna have a better understanding of the application for financial assistance for discrimination, go to the Phillips County FSA office and talk to their staff, or pick up the information. It is not true that FSA is not talking about and giving information out about the financial assistance. Well, some said they're giving it out now, because y'all told them to come to the meeting, but y'all don't talk about it. Well, either way it happens, I'm just like.
Dr. King, I want to let everybody know that the city of Lakeview has argued with Arkansas Land and Community Development to provide lunch for you guys, okay?
Great.
Yeah, they have lunch over here, lunch and soda and chip.
Oh,
We
fantastic.
need these
And we need evaluation forms also.
evaluation forms, please.
Please turn in your evaluation form and please turn in your intake form, because if you have an email, we're gonna be scheduling Zoom meetings to talk more about the application process, where people are and what kind of assistance they need. We're gonna schedule the Zoom meeting, and we're gonna invite FSA in on some of those meetings. It's gonna be good.
If people are still here.